How are we doing, team? It's a really hot, what day is it? Monday? Is it Monday?
It's Monday.
Thank you. Hard to know what day it is or what anything's going on anymore. As you see, I have a uke for my class. So this next week the schedule is gonna be shifting and changing. I know I've been kind of hinting towards that. As far as I know, there's gonna be an online site push. The beta is getting, or I think the beta is already up. Sorry, my brain's working a little bit slow right now. So we're going to be moving away from kind of workout style, quarantine, the minded style jiu-jitsu. We're going to be getting to more module lessons sort of thing. You know, right now we don't have the power of editing, but next week and onward, Chuck and myself are going to be here and filming and editing maybe on our own when Gumby teaches us how to do that. And it's going to be set up in such a way where, you know, it's basically setting everybody up for success. You know, we'll film a certain structure, and then the video will end, and we'll build upon that structure, so on and so forth. And the website also has cool little ways that we can set up quizzes and stuff like that. Trying to do what we can to try to be as more interactive with the students as possible. This is a very difficult situation when it comes to just talking to a camera lens and not getting that instant feedback that you know, Gumby and I were talking about. You know, it's a good thing to have in jiu-jitsu. It's one of those things that's the instant gratification sort of thing that's been taken away from us. But trying to do what we can to bridge that gap. And instead of broadcasting to YouTube all the time, we're going to be doing more just Zoom-based classes. So it might give people more of the incentive to join in and once again be more interactive. And our website will also have a blog. There's just gonna be a lot of cool stuff on the horizon, and you know, hopefully everybody sticks around for us. And once again, like I'm saying, I'm kind of start foregoing a warm up, not just because it's really hot today, just because I want to start shifting more towards that module-minded jiu-jitsu style. So I'm probably gonna be starting. It's seemingly things that don't seem to connect, but obviously everything can connect at one point or another. So one thing that I'm going to talk about today that I think doesn't get talked about a lot, you know, maybe there's a lot of instructors that, you know, they'll have this plate and say like, oh, this is underutilized. Every instructor is a little bit different like that. For me, I feel like grip breaks from standing and even from bottom aren't talked about enough. For instance, so I'm sure everybody knows the first thing that you see in most jiu-jitsu matches, almost that from white belt to black belt, it's pretty standard to see, is most people will lock up with both grips here. Okay, so I was training judo for not the longest amount of time. I think I only achieved my green belt, but I took judo long enough to know that this is a death sentence against my instructor back then. He would throw me and laugh at me for doing so because he knows as soon as he gets me on the ground, I'm going to destroy him. But it was all about the stand up for him. That's where he enjoyed destroying me. So this is something that I'm going to basically try to avoid at all costs, depending on how much I respect my opponent's stand up game. If I really don't think that they're going to throw me, or you know, whatever the situation is, I don't mind if they grab two grips. If I know somebody has some takedowns, generally the rule is as soon as somebody gets those two grips on you, you're getting thrown. So we did constant, break grips, we've done constant drills where you're just trying to get your dominant grips, your two dominant grips. Like I said, what we're going to be working on is grip breaking. Every little bit of form of it, as much as I can cram in here. Okay, so let's just talk about the first grip. So most people are right-handed. So Chuck's going to go right hand on my collar here. Okay, just a standard grip on the collar. Generally around the shoulder. It's not too deep. It's not really too shallow. When it's shallow, they're easier to break. So let's talk about what we're going to do here. The near side hand. This is the near side hand because I can grab this easier, and I tend to not want to really reach across here unless it's my intention to go for some sort of throw. But even then, like, you know, turning your back is a little bit risky. But we are talking about stand up here. Okay, so near side hand. I'm going to grab the body. This tends to be kind of tricky for everybody because they want to grab the gi here. But unfortunately, when I grab the top of the gi, it really doesn't help me break this grip off too well. It's kind of some wasted energy unless you're like super duper strong on this. So, you know, he's got a rash guard on and all that stuff, but I'm just gonna expose his wrist, because generally most people will have some friction there. I'm gonna be going a thumbless grip on this. And of course, you gotta make sure you have your base under you, knees slightly bent, feet about as wide as your own shoulders, right? Chuck's not doing much work on this, he's just gonna be chilling. I'm gonna reach under, and I'm gonna grab the seam as much as possible. So I'm gonna try to get close, and really I should be close on this a lot, right? So let go. So there's a little seam on everybody's gi, right? Generally it's gonna be at the bottom there. I'm gonna be grabbing it with, you know, more specifically these 3 fingers, right? Our grip strength comes from these 3 fingers mainly, not so much these 2 grips. You know, obviously if you're going for like bow and arrows and stuff like that, it's gonna be a little bit different. But you know, certain judokas, if they have their grips, it's almost like, you know, they're kind of grabbing you, and the way I was told and it was described, like they feel like a ghost before they go for their move, right? They're not putting so much into their grips, right? So it's like they just have those grips there. They're just there. They're not fully committed to it because they're probably willing to let go and break off and do whatever they want to do at that point, right? I just thought that was an interesting kind of analogy and way to put it. So we can be nice and close to the camera here. Near side hand over the top, that's grabbing the flesh, the body, whatever. Right now, I'm not grabbing his flesh necessarily. It's just over the top of his gi and on top of his on his wrist. Bottom hand, grabbing mainly with those 3 fingers, but I'm going to add everything else. I'm going to grab with all my fingers and with my thumb as well. So I'm going to spring my feet on the mat. So this is where we're going to move back out a little bit, so you can just kind of see my feet. Here we go. I'm going to spring my feet a little bit, so I have some pop off of the mat. So I'm not going to just use my arms for this. I'm not going to just use my legs. I'm going to try to, in a nutshell, with martial arts or anything, or just any sort of thing that you need to be coordinated with, is how am I going to coordinate in this order: core, legs, and hands together. Always, always, always. Basically, any physical activity in a nutshell, that's how you're going to figure out all those things from there. Okay? In that order. So I'm going to be here. I'm going to use my posture. I'm going to use everything I got. I'm going to spring off and pop this grip off. So right now I kept that grip. That's okay. If I didn't want this grip at all, right, I'm just going to pop this off, and I'm going to move away from my opponent. Okay. So let's do the opposite side grip. This is actually my preferred side. I really like when people grab on the left side. I don't know why. I just feel better attacking from this side. So this is the opposite side. So that means my right hand is going to come over the top, establish that grip, and I'm going to grab the seam. And, you know, I kind of fold the gi up too, you know, as much as I can to create some pressure over my opponent's body too. Here, spring the same way, pop kind of up and away. I don't want to go down. I don't necessarily want to just go straight out. I can go straight out, but popping up and away works really well. If you kind of, especially if you go this way, this is going to be kind of bad. I might be able to wrist lock my opponent. There's a really, really legit wrist lock from there, right? Probably wouldn't be going this way with this. It's kind of like a death sentence, pulling somebody's arm over my neck. Unless you really, really, really like doing your seo, you're really, really good at that. I tend to not be the best at those. Know how to do them, just not the best. My old judo instructor would say, "Oh, your kata is really good, your form or your uchikomes, but it's like your randori sucks." That means like actually being able to execute the technique, because there was some sort of bridge between there that I didn't get. You know, there's always some sort of in between. The setup, you know, the kazushi, the off balance, that's a big thing. I'm gonna be talking about that later, but not so much from standing. Anyway, hand over the top, I'm kind of rambling. Gonna pop away. Boom. Right now, I'm gonna keep the grip, okay? Because I want to get ahead at this point. He made a mistake by grabbing me, okay? So I have 2-on-1 at this point. So some of my favorite, basically, I'm going to be combining a lot of things that I love today, which grip breaks are one. I talked about those. Arm drags are going to be a thing too, and kazushiing our opponent. Okay. I'm not going to go for any full-fledged throws today. I just don't want to throw Chuck. He's got a big meal in his belly, and I'm kind of feeling like I don't want to be throwing into the camera right now. We should probably figure that out on a different term. But I'm going to be showing some footwork drills that you can do once you've achieved a dominant position from certain grip breaks. Okay, but I'm not going to get too ahead of myself because I want to go for a couple more grip breaks. There's a couple different more tactics that we're going to do with this. So those are just singular grips here. Okay, so let's deal with another situation here. Okay, so another thing my instructor would do, I'm going to look at the camera as if you were looking at me when we were standing. One thing that he would do is he would show me this sleeve here, and it was a ploy, right? And obviously you wouldn't stagger a stance too much, right? But a good judoka just has a slightly staggered stance, right? Just a slightly staggered stance. But he would show me his sleeve, one or the other, basically saying, grab it, right? And more often than not, people will take the bait. I would take the bait. But it's like I said, it's a ploy. It's kind of a trick. This is kind of a funny reference. I don't know if anybody knows, but we watched Mystery. We watched something else. But there's this character in Mystery Man, Hank Azarias. He's called the Blue Raza, and he throws forks under his elbow. Anyway, I kind of think about that when this happens here. So I'm showing my elbow one or the other. And, generally they're going to reach with the near side hand, because if he reaches across, he's going to be doing me a favor. So if I'm showing this arm, yeah, generally they'll be here and think like, oh, yeah, this is a good thing, right? You'd be surprised how often they'll do this. But now that I tell you, and now that I tell Chuck, he's probably not going to take the bait unless he's super curious about what's going to happen. We'll see. Okay. So as soon as I feel this, I'm going to reach under. My ploy was to re-grip on my opponent. So right now, I'm going to pivot on my toe. The same way you kind of throw a hook in boxing, this energy is going to start from my big toe and transfer up to my elbow. I'm going to shoot my elbow across only about as far as I need to, because I don't really want to expose my back to my opponent too bad. So I'm just going to reach this across. And now I'm in a good situation to either start reaching for my opponent's back or getting deep. That's going to basically be my ultimate or my end goal positions at this point. Okay, so maybe I'm on the other side here. I tend to throw my right up more often than not. Okay, I'm reaching under, reaching my elbow across. Feels the grip off really nice. And then I'm going to pull, either getting a deep pull on this, or if they start running away, I like to grab, or not quite like that. So I'm just going to explain this to Chuck really quick. So which way would you turn if you didn't want to close your back? Yes, exactly. And then I try to follow you that way. Everything I want to do is pull you this way. Everything Chuck would want to do is to go the other way. Yeah. And there's all kinds of goofy foot things in between. More mastery, lots of details I'm not talking about, but right away, right after somebody's grip, I like to make them pay. Sometimes I'll play with people but this is what you should be doing proactively. It's that whole, something I know I talked to Chuck about and all the students that I train with, like drawing that line in the sand and making them cross it on your terms, so to speak, right? I'm not fumbling to try to get grip sort of thing. I don't care, right? Like I can wait, maybe I show my collar, maybe I show my hand, right? They're going to grab you at some point if you're going to be playing that game, but there's different ways to be proactive about your grips too, but it's good to be reactive because the person's going to grab you. The most common thing is that we both locked up. So let's say maybe you're exhausted and you got into the situation where you got two grips. And like I said, this is the most common thing that happens. We shake hands, whatever. We hear somebody grabs it. Yes. How many times have we done this week, Chuck? Like, my God. Ideally, we shouldn't be messing around with this. I should be trying to make somebody pay for this. And of course, there's throws but this is too equal. This is basically 50-50. We have the same exact grips, same exact possibilities. And if somebody knows what they're doing, they're going to get you, right? So you shouldn't want to be in this situation, period. Not 50-50. No. Okay. So now I got to do both of those grip breaks because I can't, right now I can't break this one off because he's keeping this tight and he keeps that grip tight. Like if he senses this, pull my elbow in. Yes, yes. See, that feels awkward. So I got to do this in an order. So I'm going to go, basically, I'm going to elbow him in the face. I'm not going to elbow him, but that's basically the motion that I'm going to be making. Okay, just be very careful when you do this. I've never struck somebody when I've done this. Okay, but there's a possibility. When I teach this to people, they scare the crud out of me sometimes. So I got to break this one first. So I'll take my hand off of the collar because that's not helping me whatsoever at this point. If I'm trying to move in, it's probably going to be hard. So I'll break the top grip over the top. See, I pivot at my toe, and then I switch back quickly. And then I pop off. Because remember, I was kind of flustered. Maybe, I was tired. I let him get too much on me. Now I'm thinking about resetting and re-gripping. But who knows, maybe you wanted to set your grips at that point. Okay. So let me show this one more time. Double up. Here. This one's really useful, so I'm going to show this a couple more times from a different angle. You're here, right? Here, maybe we're pulling each other. I'll stay here. Pop off. Again, this is common. Right-handed, other elbow. Most people are right-handed, therefore they're going to grab this collar. Therefore, my right hand's going to be here over here. All right. That's enough of that. So let's talk about the positions that I prefer to be in once I've gone for my grip break. So let's just go left hand on the collar right now. Yeah. I don't know why. I just like this side. I like this side a lot. So right here, I got this good grip, right? So I'm gonna pop. So now I'm in a situation where I'm gonna drag my opponent because I have forearm to forearm, right? It's not really equal opportunity right now, not in my mind, right? So I'm gonna go here. So let's say Chuck braces and doesn't want to go the way I want him to go. Brace your feet, Chuck. And if he does it like that, I'm gonna probably end up foot sweeping him really bad backwards that direction. So kind of stagger your stance, Chuck. There you go. There you go. So the hand that was over the top of the wrist, I'm gonna reach for, I like to call like this mama scruff grip. If you know, like any mammal, like female to baby, whatever, they have like some scruff on their back, whether it's a dog, it's a cat, there's lots of them. So there's gonna be some space on the top of the gi here, okay? There's a lot of details to this position, right? So for me to be completely safe from here, because when both of our feet are right in front of each other, he might be able to foot sweep me as well, but if I see that coming, that might be his doom too. So to just talk about this position a little bit, to lock it up really strong, I'm gonna go forearm over the top of his shoulder here, okay? It's just a quick little motion here. Okay, I'm gonna bring it up close to the camera really quick. Here, I'm gonna swing my elbow on the inside. And I'm essentially gonna almost like create like a side control pressure from standing here. So I'm gonna move back away. So because my right leg is vulnerable, I'm gonna actually move that back. See, now I'm gonna create a bunch of pressure over my opponent's left shoulder. Okay, so I have that mama scruff grip. I put my elbow over his collarbone, and this is a good position for me. Okay, so let's just talk about some positions of my feet and some possibilities here. Okay, so go and just keep your weight really braced. So there's a couple different ways to do the different throws from here. So the main one from this position is going to be a sumigeshi, or obviously the foot sweep is a good option too, depending on how much I get him in motion. But right now I'm banking that the guy, I couldn't even get the guy moving, right? He's just here, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to step basically in front of my opponent, but kind of out of the way. So I'm going to hop in and aim my foot to the high part of his thigh above my opponent's knee. And see how I was able to go right back to where I want it. I'm not going to throw him, but you can see that he's not going to have a post over his left shoulder, right? This is one of my favorite throws. Okay, so from the same position, I might have got an over pull. Okay, maybe he just couldn't stop me from getting close to him. So I pop this off. He's still bracing his feet. That's all well and good, but I got really close. So the secret to this position is keeping my ear glued to my opponent's shoulder here. And I'm kind of keeping him encased between my arm and my ear. And obviously just keeping this arm really tight here is going to be really, really important. Just keeping this tight. Even with the absence of the gi here, sometimes from the Russian tie, this is kind of what it looks like here. So I had this grip, and now I'm in a situation. So from here, I could still do my sumi, right? I might be able to step in and go here, right? Step in and out of the way, try not to pull my opponent on top of me. The one that I prefer to practice from here is called a deep keoche. So the step that I can do is foot to foot, and then I turn my foot to the side to block my opponent's foot here. So let's turn everything around. Check out my footwork on this. 1, 2. So that's just a little bit of a stand-up concept there. It's extremely hot, team. So if we were doing our modules, I could have just pressed stop record and we can get some water. So just a little test run of that. Okay, I'm pretty good at this. Stuff I have a lot of. All right, team. So, of course, there's some moves within the concept that I'm going to show, but the concept lives within a lot of different moves. It lives within all those moves that I didn't throw him with right now. Just that word that I keep saying, kazushu, just that fancy word for off balance. I'm not sure if that's the actual translation for it, but that's what we're looking for. Or anytime you're trying to make your opponent light, whether it's a throw, a sweep, or a reversal, whatever, any situation where you have to redirect your opponent's weight. There's a feeling where it feels easy, like it's effortless. That's what you want it to feel. There's a feeling where it feels like you're pushing into a rock wall or something. That's wrong. You're doing it wrong. Okay. So the way that I always introduce this to anybody, it doesn't matter who it is the most basic guard doesn't have a name. It's just both of those feet on the hip bones. Okay. And once again, jiu-jitsu or any sort of martial art or anything active that you do, in this order. What am I doing with my core? What am I doing with my legs? What am I doing with my arms? And in that nutshell, how do I coordinate all those things together? So right now, I'm going to start with cat's paw grip. It doesn't matter if I don't have the gi, you can just grab over the wrist, whatever. But cat's paw grip, 4 fingers over the side, right? Most people watching this should understand what's going on with that. So feet over the hip bones, kind of like the reverse way that I would use my hand, or like the reverse way that my feet actually work. My feet don't work very well like that. I'm using my feet as I would my hands. That's why I couldn't spit out of my mouth right now. Okay. Sticky feet, monkey feet, whatever doesn't gross you out, right? Knees about as wide as your opponent's shoulders, right? And I'm trying to get my opponent to fly. So his center of gravity, for the most part, is centered in his core, right? Secondary in his head, and also wherever his feet step to, there's some base there too. So once again, coordinating everything. So I like to kind of have wide hands on this, so it's easier for me to keep him balanced, as opposed to a narrow path here. He's going to be able to fall off the peak a little bit easier. Okay, so I'm going to bring my knees over my hip line, knees slightly over my hip line. My feet will generally be in line with my hips. Then I'm going to launch my feet up in the air. If I do this just right, it shouldn't feel too hard. Let's see how much food he ate. Oh, he's not too bad. Here we go. And notice how, normally I'd keep my opponent's arms flying here, but just for drilling purposes, he's doing what he can here. And if he wants to Superman in the air, that's up to him too. And I could keep him here indefinitely. And if anybody knows or anybody trains with me, they know that I love to make you fly in the air and throw you one side or the other or achieve an arm lock, whatever that is. So just going to kind of show the way I like to drill this. Maybe just show a couple moves once you feel good with this. But let me just not get too ahead of myself. Can you pull me back, Trevor? In the shot? Yes. Okay, so I'm gonna go arms over my head, knees over my hip line, feet up in the air, make him fly. Watch when I put him back, I'm gonna use his momentum to bring me back. And I'm gonna probably push him into the wall at this point because of my, keep pushing him back there. Push him to the side. Arms over my head, arms straight and strong like a push-up, bending my legs. Boom. And you should feel his hip bones. Oh, that's the stomach side for sure. There we go. That's better. I gotta compensate for the stomach side. And as you see, I'm kind of pulling down because it kind of helps me to pull my hips to where I gotta go. But equally so, this over the head motion can help this as good. Oh. Whoa. There we go. Perfect to get right back in front of the camera. So actually, I'll forgo showing any of the moves from there. These are kind of just teasers for I can do a module for all this stuff. This is basically kind of just going to be a teaser for a bunch of modules. Obviously, from all that grip break stuff, there's going to be some throws. Obviously, from here, there's some sweeps and some reactions. People don't like to fly in the air, therefore they move backwards. When they move backwards, all kinds of amazing things happen. I want to show another kazushu drill. Okay, and this is going to lead into the rest of what I'm going to show for the evening. It's not going to be too much. Like I said, we're going to be kind of moving away from that old format and kind of starting a new sort of thing. So let's get same perspective on your knee step, facing it. We're going to get that good old butterfly hook drill going. So there's a lot of different ways that I can position my arms. So right now, I'm just gonna grab 2 hands on the collar. I'm gonna make them fly. I might have had an overhook, I might have had a hook. I'm gonna be eventually going for an arm drag because I tell a lot of students, like if you just master Kazushi, obviously having some other tools in your tool chest, having a good hook and arm drags, you're gonna be pretty well off, at least off your back, especially in no-gi. Just look at Marcelo. He doesn't really do much other than how he sets up his butterfly guard to his hashi, to his X, and arm drags, and nothing too fancy going on there. So I'm gonna go 2 hands on the collar. So to create some action reaction on this, I always kind of lean forward and push my opponent backwards because their general reaction is to move back towards you, right? There's some really, really stubborn guys on this. I might talk about that in a second. Right now, Chuck's going to be nice and compliant with me. I can lift most people up when they're here. There are some ways to generate some more power on this. So once again, when you're thinking about my jiu-jitsu hooks, right? So wherever my jiu-jitsu hooks are, that's where my hips need to go. And that's where I'm going to become powerful to bring my opponent up. And this is just literally what I'm about to do to Chuck. Here, I push him back, I feel him go, I bring him up, and not only about as up as I need to, and I'm going to bring him back, just as a drill. Up. What I'm practicing is that feeling. You have to be honest with yourself. I always like to say, I don't live inside your body. You got to be honest with yourself. Did it feel hard, or did it feel easy? Okay, I have to ask yourself honestly. If you can't do that for an extended period of time, you did it 5 times and then you're starting to get tired, you're probably not doing the technique right. And, once again, be honest with yourself. So let's see how much energy this takes. And obviously, every counter has a counter. I'm always, anytime you have 2 identical hooks, you have to be worried of people jumping over your knees. Always counter, always counter. What's good about this one too, is you can lead this into the same thing that I was just doing. Let's see how coordinated I'm going to be right now. So it's going to be butterfly hooks to both feet on the hips. And that's a very much like a 0 to 100 sort of thing, right? I love doing this like on the first handshake mostly. Go on this side, Chuck. I think I'm gonna have space for this. So yeah, usually just kind of to recreate. Not that I maybe haven't done this to a viewer or two, right? But as soon as they get that, like I'm thinking my pace, exactly what I want to do. Usually, like I said, people aren't living in my brain. They're not clairvoyant. They're not telepathic. They don't know what I'm going to do. But if you know my game, you could probably see what I'm going to do. I generally will try to play the same thing over and over. Anyways, so without doing this Chuck yet, so when I bring my hips in, I'm going to try to elevate one hook more than the other so I can bring my foot in, catch his hip. I'll use that to slightly lift to feed to the other foot, which is really complicated, but that's why we practice. Move my opponent back, put them up in such a way. See how I catch him with my right foot? And this is the natural. I wouldn't keep him here for long, right? I'm going to push him up to both feet on the hips. And it's good that I was coordinated enough to do that right now. He's not too heavy from his whatever food he got. And generally from here, I felt so good. Probably rotate him over and finish. We make jokes. We're bored. We're really bored. Save us from boredom, team. And, I got the foot. Depending on how much I want to do, there we go. Right, forward Chuck. Rotate. More fast motion, maybe. Oh, yeah. Sometimes it's slow, sometimes it's fast. It does not matter. And also, you saw at the end, there's so many things you can do. Take your opponent's back out of that. Flip them over. I generally love throwing somebody's hips over their head and making them go ass over tea kettle, how Gumby would say. All right, let's talk about my other favorite thing. So if you go to BJJ Heroes, that's like a pretty well-known site, and Gumby's on there, which is cool.
Listen, I would go on there all the time back when I was like a lower belt, and you try to learn about black belts and stuff, or just information. Information is always helpful. I don't know. We're jiu-jitsu nerds, right? We idolize it all. We do all that. Anyway, Gumby's favorite move, it's on there. It says arm drags, right? And he would profess that arm drags have saved his bacon more times than he can count. And pretty much verbatim as much as possible. So I'm going to forego the self-defense portion of that. I'm sure I'm going to end up having to do it with Gumby at some point, so there's no way I'm actually going to forego it in the long run. But just for today. So I'm going to add the drags from this low position. If they're low enough on their knees to play around with me, I'm always dragging. Obviously if they're standing, I'm not going to be able to drag them in the traditional sense. I have to go for leg drags and maybe some other things. But the moment they get down to my level, the moment they get into this range, okay, keyword on that, range, I'm going to execute them. Pretty much always do it. And I don't know how many times I've drilled this over and over, but let's find a good angle for this. Confirm check. Okay. So I'm going to be looking for that reach. Most people are right-handed, so I'm generally getting really good at dragging their right arm. You should be good side to side on this because you never know what side you have to drag for various purposes. But for right now, he's going to reach across that center line. Yeah, and he already got my collar, but I need him to go slow because that was a warm bowl of porridge. There you go. So I'm going to go over the top here and reach with a thumbless grip on this, right? And who knows, I might have been pawned for that myself too. Sometimes I'll do the same thing. I don't necessarily have to make him go across there. I might be playing for his hands. I might be 2-on-1, right? I might be opening. I might be moving up and down to see what his reactions are, right? We're here. Yeah, as soon as I just see it right away. As soon as I see that hand, that shoulder move, that's what we're looking for. Yep. So I'm going to move this thing into my pocket. So we have those good Gumbyisms, or whatever you want to call them. Always keep your opponent between your arms. Never be between your opponent's arms. Always keep your opponent between your legs. Never be in between your opponent's legs. And face plant your opponent. We got all those things going on at one time here. Okay. I want to close the distance because I want to create less opportunity for my opponent. So I'm going to go straight in, shoulder, shoulder. Not head to head, shoulder, shoulder. Moving across the center line. Okay. Definition of a drag. Using my feet to bring myself in. Using my seated guard. Using my feet to bring myself in. And I did something else when I did that there. As I brought myself in, I made his arm weak. Generally, they're not going to just let you pull them in. They're going to create some counterforce there. So he's going to flare his own shoulder more just based on him trying to stay in his own position there. Okay. So we're going to go again. We'll go slow. Flare the elbow. Good things will happen from this because they think they're going to spin this wrist out. Still, that's going to be good for other things. Who knows? 1, 2. Oh, and because of what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be keeping my butterfly hooks here, okay? Because I'm going to connect all this stuff together. So I'm going to show both angles. I should be able to drag both sides. So you can reach with his right hand. I'm going to bring myself in, okay? And I've basically got as far as I can to the wall. I got to open up. I got to be like a door right now. So I'm going to turn on my hip, which is my hinge. My hooks are flying right now. My connection to the ground is my elbow slightly past my torso, right? And if he moves into me, it's not good for him. I'm reaching around my opponent as much as I can. I'm kind of just instinctually grabbing the belt. Grabbing over the lat is a smarter thing. Right now I'm reaching all the way around towards his pec. If I can get towards a Bravo grip, this is great. I'm going to show the opposite angle on this. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, generally, there's a million gi grips and stuff. If I don't care about gi grips, this is going to be my game. I'm just going to play drags and butterfly guard, right? So my hooks should be flying at the moment. But we do have the gi, so we can talk about, Bravo grip. My hooks, both of them are up. I'm blocking him with my knee on this side. I didn't really talk about that when I was on the other side. I'm up on my elbow, but when he wants to collapse me over, that's going to be a bad thing for him. So I'll show both angles on this. So just kind of like before, what were we showing that? Yeah, the action reaction. I'm always pushing, right? And Chuck kind of remembers. I just don't remember quite when I was talking about this. My brain's kind of fried today for some reason. Okay. Leaning, probably because it's so hot. So when I choose, my hips are going to collapse under, and I'm going to take my opponent all the way over. Okay, hips collapse in, and I'm going to take him over. Right. I prefer to accelerate him to a bulldozer position here. Okay, I'm using my chest to block my opponent's shoulder. And I'm nice and low, kind of in this very unnatural position here. So I'm going to show it from the other angle, so you can see. You can't really see what's going on there, but you saw other good details. Here, because I'm going to be throwing you. So 1, 2, 3. Boom. Here we go. Really lean into my opponent. Yeah, I feel him push back. That's when I open up the floodgates. Over. Chest to that shoulder blade. Knees nice and low. And ideally, I really should be scooping up this bottom arm here. But sometimes I get tunnel vision on the neck. When I show my long step series, this is going to be a big part of that, this bulldozer position. So many things to talk about and show. Just doing kind of clip notes on my own. Maybe show a different angle on this. 1, 2, 3. And I was kind of telegraphing my drag, but I was ready for it. Right now, I caught his arm. His armpit, or his wrist is caught on my armpit. I have my hand back behind the elbow. It's a good, easy armbar finish from here. I proceeded over to mount, S mount in particular, and these are some of the strongest arm bars that you possess. All right, so I'm going to move right along. In actuality, I probably should be editing things a little bit faster. I'm just talking to my production assistant here for the most part. So this is a universal rule. If your arm gets taken away, especially if you're down on your knees, you have to compensate with another part of your body. So Chuck's done this a bunch. I'm just going to make him go down. Come up to your butterfly drive. Go and drag my arm. So right away, so whether it's an arm lock, there's a lot of things going on, especially if I've got dragged at this point. My first priority is to just, at the very least, post out to the side that my arm has gotten dominated, right? It's not a sure thing that I'm going to stop myself from getting swept. It's going to feel just a little bit harder for him, okay? Because I'm really flexible. I should be able to post in such a way that I should be able to stop my shoulder from getting swept. So I'm going to step my leg up nice and wide, ideally in line with my shoulder, because that's what I'm trying to stop, right? But there still is an over-the-head sweep for him from there if he wants to be really stubborn about it. But I'm just stopping this one thing at this point. So let's go top to bottom. And as you see, I'm posting kind of both my hands. So I'm thinking that I'm taking both sides, but really we just have to react in a certain way. So create a little bit of an angle on this, trying to see what the best thing is going to be for this. 1, 2, 3, falling sideways, never falling down to my back. Chuck knows what's happening. He's privy. He's been training with me for a little while now. I'm kind of starting to learn the tricks of my game. So he's exposed himself to the next thing at this point. So I'm going to basically kind of forget about this arm. And granted, if there's not much space for him to be able to do with this, and I'm not going to be staying here long. So the hook that was up on the thigh is going to drop down. You can hear that on the ground. That's my bottom leg making that sound right now. Bottom leg is on the ground. It's going to do a mixture of a sit-up sweep and an old school hook sweep. This other hook that's on the top, that's still staying strong. Okay. Depending on how much I'm dealing with this arm here, I might have grabbed the wrist. Right now I'm going from the shoulder to the elbow, and I'm just going to drive through on this. It's going to be very difficult for him to stay up because he's basically checkmated himself. I've done as much as I can to create an uneven battle. There's only so much you can do at that point, you know. It's by the numbers. No wonder there are things work in 2s and 3s, and if you've done more than 4 moves, I think I was talking about this recently. You've probably done too many things. I think it's based on the limbs at this point. So I'm just figuring this out now. Do you have? Yeah. We're gonna change a different angle. Yeah. Trick is a lot of things going on here. 1, 2, 3. He's gonna step his leg up, but I'm gonna block him. I don't want him to step over that. So I keep this hook really strong. And this is the perfect angle. You can see on the camera. My hook is not a ballerina foot, jiu-jitsu hook, and I'm such a harper on this. I don't know why people it's like, man, you're already here, you're on the ground and stuff. Just do that one last thing that you got to do, right? And you'll be fine. So I wanted to make sure I got a good post. I already feel like it's going to be a waste of time to take them over for the first sweep. Reach over, sometimes to the wrist, sometimes the elbow. Right now, you can really see how I'm reaching over the head. Sometimes it's hard to reach over the torso. Reaching over the head might be a little bit easier. Control the wrist, and end up on top. All right, team, I got one more to show. And we're probably going to call that quits for the evening. Probably went about a little bit further than I even wanted to today. So, not necessarily the last thing. There's always so many other things. Let's say when somebody posts out everything, right? This has happened to me before. I try to do this in a situation, and they try to just post out everything. You might be trying to step over your hooks in vain, whatever the situation. So I'll show the reaction. So I'm getting dragged. I start panicking, right? We're here. I'm up. But Chuck is keeping everything good for him, right? And ideally, you should be a little bit sideways too. There you go. This is much better. See how me being up really does not have much bearing on the situation here. I might feel like it's gonna slow me down a little bit. It's not impossible. So let's just talk about that really quick. So I'm gonna do a super over-engineered over the head sweep because I had the drag from the very beginning, that ascending hold. As soon as you drag that arm, you know you should be able to take him to that shoulder every time. But I kind of circled back to it. I tried to go for it first. It felt too hard. Maybe I was thinking about the next thing. He's just posting out everywhere. I just have to do extra technique at this point. It's just slightly different. Slightly different, but still the same. He doesn't want it to happen. He's up. He's up. Yeah, he's up. So it's just going to be slightly different because I can't really take him over his hip so much. I got to take him over his shoulder. Whereas before, I was taking him more over his hip. Okay, so I'm here, going to bring my hips under, and I'm really going to take him up and over more. Okay, up and over more. And there's so many options. I can stay off, stay on, dismount. All depends on your game at that point. Let's do this one. Why not? Just experiment. Yeah, he's up, and there's so many different things too. I might be able to kick the leg out. It's just risky to be fiddling with these legs at this point, right? Especially because of the grip that I have. Instincts would say to kick this one out, but what good really is that going to do? I really don't think that's going to do me much good. So I'm just going to bring my hips out and under. I might have been able to put both feet on the hips there, but I'm just going to bring my hips under, take them over, and in this case, I kept the arm. All right, team. Get up on our feet on this. So that's just kind of a little teaser and also just me starting to awaken my brain to do some extra things that I need to do. Once again, I'm going to be more module minded. We're getting really close, team, to seeing people back in the gym, however ridiculous of the situation it might be, but we're getting really close, team. Okay, so just to stick it out. Try to stay sane. I know it's really hot. I'm sure everybody's going really stir crazy right now. Just considering everything. Just considering everything. Anyway, appreciate everybody. That's kind of the end of our mock module class.